Hey, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show. Thanks for tuning in to the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM. If you're interested in sponsoring my show, you can send me an email to the Mike Wagner Show at gmail.com, or you could also donate to the podcast. Just go to the Donate Listen site, and you can also donate whatever you like. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. For those who are interested, Anchor can give you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. We've got creation tools, allows you to record and edit podcasts so it sounds great, and they'll distribute the podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere. Spotify, Apple, Google, many more. And you can make money from the podcast with no minimum listenership. So download the Anchor app for free or go to Anchor FM to get started.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show brings you famous celebrities and amazing people from all over the world. Listen online at themikewagnershow.com and on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And watch the interview on YouTube. So sit back and relax and enjoy the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey, everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking a budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. Also, check our Facebook page, facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, and Anchor FM. Also, watch the interview on YouTube as well, too, and take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. And don't forget to subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show. Once again, take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. We're here with a wonderful author who's got a very, very interesting subject to talk about. He's the author of Creation, Abomination, talking about cloning, good versus evil. It's about a scientist working on a thesis to receive a doctorate from USC. And he does some interesting things, and he's here to talk about that. And, of course, this is probably one subject that I wish I had a clone that was in my spot while I'd be with family or going out. But, you know, that'll be for another time, too. So, ladies and gentlemen, live from his very, very busy office somewhere in the heart of the United States, Alan Thompson. Alan, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Mike, how are you? Good to be here.
Hey, I'm doing great. You're the author of Creation, Abomination, which is published right now. It's talking about cloning, good versus evil, about a scientist working on a thesis to receive a doctorate from USC. And, of course, you can, fill us in. And you've been pretty much just working on this for quite some time. You just have a fascination, and you're born and raised in California. You live in Idaho. You spent 25 years working in high tech and digital marketing. You're a full-time professor at the University of Idaho, and you have a lot of things that you really enjoy doing. And of course, playing chess and, just doing some things. But before we get into our book, tell us how you got started.
I'm sorry, just say the last part one more time.
I said, tell us how you got started.
So how I got started in writing, essentially, sorry?
No, I said, tell us how you got started when it comes to writing.
Yeah. So I originally had the idea for Creation Abomination back in 1995. Wow. And it was a long time ago. I had just read Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, and I loved it because it's realistic science fiction. Michael Crichton basically uses science and reality of science to make stories more believable. Mm-hmm. And he does a lot of research into that. And so when I read that book, I just loved the entire idea about cloning and how they were using DNA of dinosaurs to recreate those. And I've always had a love and fascination with supernatural angels and demons. And so at that time, I wrote a 28-page outline, and because I'm very detail oriented. And then I let it sit, and I let it sit for 15 years.
Wow.
Because life gets in the way, right? I had kids, mm-hmm. I'm married, moved across country from California to Chicago. And back in 2010, I kind of, I have on my shelf kind of like the outline, and just to remind me I need to do this. And back in 2010, I saw it. I'm like, I just got to get off my butt and write this thing. And I decided I was going to do that. So it's not something that I have like an author by training. I'm not. It wasn't something I wanted to do like career-wise, but it's just a passion that I've had. I had this great idea for a story, and so I started writing in 2010, and it took me about 6 years to write it. Kind of when the planets aligned, free time and motivation, because I worked in my normal job, and I was teaching as an adjunct professor back at Northwestern University in Chicago. So as a busy guy, that was my family. So it did take a while.
Wow, it's amazing. And what inspired you to write this 28-page detailed outline?
What inspired me to write the outline was really just kind of, it was more or less was kind of myself. I wanted to detail the idea out so I didn't lose it, because I know if I didn't write it down, I was going to forget it. And as I was writing it out, I wanted to detail as much as possible to kind of flow and get the idea. Now, obviously, I didn't have the entire story worked out, but I had a good amount of it worked out, and some kind of the main pillars of it, some of the main components. And I wanted to write it down so I wouldn't forget it. And I had this idea, this dream of, hey, I could write this, turn this into a book. I'd love to see it turn into a movie, and it was just something I wanted to share.
Mm-hmm. That sounds amazing too. And what got you interested in the whole thing with creation, abomination, and especially cloning as well too? What got you really interested in that?
So with cloning, so I am I'm a science nerd. I'm not trained. I'm not like a science biologist or a chemist or anything like that. But I've always just been one of those real technically oriented, science oriented people, and so that was kind of what piqued my interest in that. And more or less, I'm one of those guys that when I watch a movie or read a book, and if I know a little bit about the science behind what they're trying to present, and if I know they're doing something wrong, it drives me crazy. It just absolutely drives me nuts. And so that was really a lot of the impetus to push me into doing research to make sure this was as accurate as possible. And so that was kind of what pushed me into more onto the science side. So it's just kind of a passion of mine. I've just always been really interested in that.
Mm-hmm. And we talked about dinosaurs as well too, when they did the cloning to make it lifelike and everything else. How many times have you seen Jurassic Park?
Oh my gosh, way too many.
I'm way behind you, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, seen it way too many times, and but they should have. You're watching those, especially when you get to like 4 and 5. They should have stopped a long time ago, because they just kind of keep trying to milk that franchise.
Uh-huh. And of course, what do you think about the latest one, though? It's like, I'm trying to think, was it the Lost World, Ultimate World, Last World? It's like, what was that last Jurassic Park that was supposed to be like the end of it? It's like, what were your thoughts on that? Right. I couldn't think of the end of that last movie. And I know Jurassic Park is like the last something. I can't think of it.
Yeah, well, there's Jurassic Park. The most recent one was like Jurassic Park: The Lost World, and that one had Thor, the guy. I'm sorry, it wasn't Thor. It was the guy who played in the Avengers. He was Star-Lord, and I can't remember his name though. Chris Pratt, and Chris Pratt was in the Jurassic Park movie. I thought it was great. The first one, they came out with the second one. And the second one, to me, just kind of seemed okay. It was, great. You did it the first time. The second one just kind of seemed like it was just more of the same thing. But the first one is very enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing, too. And we'll talk a little more about your book and, some of the cloning as well, too. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking a budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. Also, check our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, Anchor FM, and watch the interview on the YouTube channel under The Mike Wagner Show. And subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on YouTube and take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. We're here with author Alan Thompson of Creation Abomination, Cloning versus Good and Evil. We talked a little bit about the fascination of cloning, science, and everything else. And of course, this also you also sent information about a news story broke about Chinese scientists experimenting with the genetic editing of babies. So you can just tell us a little about that, and how do you think it's getting close to reality, and your thoughts on it? Agree or disagree?
So in terms of the story, so this was actually November of last year, and there was a Chinese scientist who announced to the world that he had created the first 2 genetically edited twins using CRISPR technology that were HIV immune. Mm-hmm. And so when he made this announcement, almost immediately, multiple different governments came out and condemned his work. Because it's kind of almost like an unspoken, but it's definitely like the third rail. Scientists are not, they don't go into the area or the realm, not supposed to go in the area realm of trying to clone humans. Mm-hmm. And so when this Chinese scientist did that, everybody came out and said, hey, this is not the right thing to do. And then literally within like a day or a day and a half, the best way I heard it described is the Chinese government disappeared him. You couldn't find him. He like, no one could contact him. No one could get a hold of him. And then he resurfaced again, I believe, like about 5 days later. So that was the story behind that. In terms of how close do I think that we really are with that? I mean, I think it's a reality. There's lots of things like from the Dolly sheep, and that was 20 plus years ago.
I remember that.
Yeah, and creating the first clone sheep, and advancing to cloning humans is inevitable. Essentially, it's science is pushing the boundaries. That's something that they're trying to get to. And when I say they, I just mean scientists and the science community at large. Do I think that they've done it successfully? I mean, there's nothing official that's kind of come out except for that one story I saw about that Chinese scientist. But I think there's probably some success stories that just haven't been made prominent. Mm-hmm. And it's a little scary because, the main thing to me when you think about cloning of a human is, let's say, you clone the human, they were brought to term, and now they're walking around and they basically become an adult type of a thing. What if when you clone that human, it introduced something into the gene pool that when this adult decides to go out, they have children of their own, and then it propagates it out. I mean, it could, eventually, go across the planet and more or less, and something from creating sickness or disease that's incurable to potentially even, killing off people from more of a genetic level. And so it's super, it's super controversial just in terms of whether or not it's something that we should be doing. It is something which I know people are doing, people that are trying to do. And yeah.
It's amazing too, what science and technology can do. And I was going to ask as well too, and some other people as well too. If someone came to you that you wanted children cloned, you cloned, or anything like that, it's like, I guess the big question is, if someone came to you, if you want to be cloned, would you say yes or no?
Wow. If someone came to me and said, hey, we want to clone you, I'd probably say no. Because I'd be like, so what's the purpose? Why do you want to clone me? I wouldn't want to have a second me running around. My wife probably couldn't stand that anyway. But I would not. I would ask them, fundamentally why. Now, I think the bigger or more likely question is let's say that somebody had a disease, or they had something that they were going to die from, and the idea, the prospect of, hey, if we took some of your cells, we created a clone of you, and then we were able to somehow, through science and whatever, transfer your consciousness into this other entity, or we could use that to save you by like either replacing organs or different things like that. That becomes, I think that's probably a more like plausible, realistic type of scenario. And do I think we're going to be faced with that? I think that's probably on the horizon.
Mm-hmm. Now it's been done with one person, like with a baby with its cells. Now, can it be done with taking two or more of a person's cells or DNA and creating into one person?
I'm not sure I quite follow you on that. You mean like trying to combine two different people into one?
Correct. Yes. Like say you take one cell and create one, but then have two or more people and having just one, like you see in the movies as well too. They take one arm of this person, one leg of that person, or one of this person, like, like say robots, and just put it all together into like an ultimate. It's like, can that be done like in real life with humans?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So technically, I would say no, because when you took the cell and you read the DNA of one person, you would get that complete DNA set from that person. And if you wanted to, hey, let's kind of mix and splice it with another person's, then you have to decide, okay, which, in essence, you think about like when a baby's formed, you get, 23 chromosomes to make a total of 46 chromosomes. Half comes from each parent to, create the embryo, which develops into a child. And so I don't think the science is there yet to be able to say, hey, we're going to take a cell and we're going to choose which specific portions of DNA that we want, and we're going to splice that in with this other person to create a Frankenstein. So I don't think that's plausible or possible right now. And then the other thing you have to consider too is if you took like you talk about, take an arm from someone and put it on somebody else type of a thing, you think about like modern medicine, modern science right now. If you did a heart transplant, you just can't take any heart and put it in another body. It has to be compatible. It has to be the same blood type. There has to be certain criteria that are met in order for that to not be rejected by the body.
Mm-hmm. And something too, I'll talk more about that when it comes to the book. And another question that popped up, a similar type of cloning is AI, which is artificial intelligence. And how do you think this world is close to becoming AI or more reliant?
Yeah, so artificial intelligence is, it's there. It's not there like we see in the movies, which is, a fully sentient being that's walking around and talking and has a personality and can think and reason. But artificial reality is being leveraged for a lot of things. So when I look back to my professional career, I did a lot of digital marketing advertising for some big companies like Yahoo and Experian, things like that. And specifically, artificial intelligence is being used to determine what ads to show people based on behaviors they exhibit, based on hundreds of different data points, thousands of data points, running models and algorithms against those, and then making a decision on what to show. So it's removing the person from the process. Your ability to say, yes, I want to click on this and make this ad go to that person. It's turning it over completely to, quote, the machine. And so the machine is running that. Another example of that is you look at Google and Google with their next generation search engine they have going right now. As I understand it, most of that is AI in terms of how it basically leverages the search and the patterns and the things that it observes, and it goes out and actually creates it creates those search parameters, search criteria.
So in other words, if you were to type in like your name, like, specific keystrokes like this, or, whatever it is, or you're drinking coffee. So it's like, it'll start saying, searching Alan Thompson, searching fingers, searching coffee, or, like you're playing chess, it'll search chess. Has that come to that point?
It's not to that point yet where, like, because there you literally have to turn the camera on. I have to do like a scan and see what you're doing, and privacy laws would, at least the way they are right now, would never allow that. But the specifics with Google, they're leveraging artificial intelligence to do the back end processing to determine, what things are we finding out there on the web? How does it classify websites and how it crunches and grinds through that? So that when you do a search on Google, it can go ahead and return the most relevant things.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing, too. I'll talk more about your book as well, too. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. Also, check our Facebook page, like and share, and become a fan at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, and Anchor FM. and watch the interview on the YouTube channel under the Mike Wagner Show, and take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. We're here with author Alan Thompson of Creation Abomination. It's cloning versus good and evil. And let's go ahead and talk about the book at last here and just getting some ideas of, what you do, how it comes about. And it's about a research scientist working on thesis to receive his doctorate from University of Southern California. And the focus on this is to discover how to repair injuries to the human body that are considered to be irreparable, leveraging adult stem cells. But along the way, a number of situations come up, and you can just tell us more about the book.
Absolutely. So as you described, he was trying to use adult stem cells, the main character, to heal injuries, but it doesn't work. And so what he figures out is that embryonic stem cells will in fact work, but there's a catch. Okay, always a catch with a great story. Mm-hmm. And the catch is that the embryonic stem cells, they have to come from the same person who needs to be healed. Now, that's an impossibility. A lot of people, when I talk to them about this, they always say, hey, well, what about the embryonic stem cells that are in the umbilical cord? Couldn't they have just saved those? And I say, well, you could have saved those, but I'm out of luck. My mom didn't save them. Most of the planet hasn't saved those cells. And then There's also a difference between those embryonic stem cells and the embryonic stem cells that the main character determines the ones that need to be used. When an embryo is first formed in the first embryos first form for about 18 hours, embryonic stem cells exist. They're called pluripotent cells. And it's before the embryo embeds itself into the wall of the uterus. And those are the cells that the main character, William, determines that he needs to have in order to heal these injuries. Now everybody's like out of luck, right? Because you have to go to time travel. Well, this book doesn't include time travel. This is realistic science. And so what he determines is he needs to create a human embryonic clone of the person who needs to be healed, harvest the cells from the embryo, which unfortunately destroys the embryo in the process. Exactly. Now that puts forth one of the first big moral ethical issues, and there's several that this book presents, and that is that right or wrong? Mm-hmm. Because literally, if there's that embryo, is it life? If you harvest those cells, are you destroying that life? Are you murdering? And so it really brings a lot of contentious issues to the forefront.
Well, I've got some questions as well, too, but do you think that'll create a potential black market for it in case somebody really wants it bad? Like, say, somebody underground, millions and billions of dollars, like, can you do this? Will it create a black market?
If it was,
or mafia.
If it was a reality, because again, this is a science fiction book, but if it was a reality, as there is in pretty much every industry and business out there, there's always nefarious individuals who do things that are not according to the rules and laws. So yeah, I think that would probably exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a concern we had too. Just like everything, black market willing to pay and everything else. Of course, some of the moral and ethical issues are addressed is, can we create life form using science, and should we create that life form as well?
Right. Yeah, that's a big issue, which is, so we have, and that's something in science is we're exploring, right? We're always trying to invent, we're trying to create, we're trying to push the boundary. And, if we have the ability to create life, to create a human life, should we? And that big question, that brings in like some religious undertones or some very strong religious discussion points in terms of, does humankind have the ability to create life like God creates life?
Right.
And well, if humankind does that mean that God doesn't exist? Mm-hmm. That's another fundamental issue that this book brings out. And there's another one, which is, let's say you clone somebody and then they're born and they're walking around. Does that person have a soul? Mm-hmm. And so this is where I bring in a lot of the supernatural components to the book, where you have angels and demons, and they're actually they're in the storyline. They're active participants, and they push the plot and the characters along. So they have their hand in the action, directing things, and that kind of adds to the overall creepiness of it.
That is something as well too. That the question is, if the life is formed, from cloning, does that mean God does not exist? And of course, the question is, if that person believes in God, it's like the next question is, then what?
Right. Yeah. It's a conundrum and a half, right? That whole it's almost kind of mind trip. And there's one other issue which I think the idea of cloning brings to the forefront as well, which is, so let's say we successfully create clones and we've now got 5, 10, 1,000, 2,000 clones that are walking around. How do we view those clones? Mm-hmm. Are they not natural humans? Are they like a subclass of human? Mm-hmm. Do they not have rights as every other human on the planet has? Mm-hmm. And so that's a whole nother realm of moral and ethical issues, which this really, identifies that we have to contend with.
And of course, another question that came to mind as well, too, like say if, they're told, beforehand or afterwards that, yes, you're a clone, and they come to realize that they've accepted, God or Jesus Christ, Christianity, Buddhism, or, any religious deity down the board. It's like, is that going to, really mess everything up? What's a person going to think? Or, or I guess the question is that, what's a person going to think or believe?
Right. I think that's a big potential issue. The one of the things, so the way that I kind of discuss that in my book, which is, so basically these clones, they're brought to life. And, the idea of, well, if that clone's brought to life, does the clone have a soul? And in the story, that's actually what I'm portending, which is the clone does in fact have a soul. It's just not a soul that you want.
Mm-hmm. And of course, another question I'm sure somebody's going to ask is like, would God be pleased if clones would be all over the earth, or somebody reproduced these clones? So like, would God be pleased? That's another question, especially Buddhism or other deities. I mean, would they be pleased?
Right, and that's one thing. So my thought on that, my opinion on that is, we as humankind, we've been given abilities, we've been given our brain, we've been given our intellect, and the fact that we're leveraging our brain and our intellect to do things shouldn't surprise God, right? That we are pushing the boundaries, and we are, and we're exploring, and we're trying to create, but then that brings in a whole kind of theological angle to things, which kind of comes back to that fundamental question of, is this an area that we should go?
Mm-hmm. And in the book too, is it basically just leaves an open-ended question to the reader. It's like, the issue of God. So basically let the reader decide then.
Yeah, well, so I'm glad you asked that question, because that was one of the things which was really challenging to me about writing this book. And that was, I wrote it in such a way that it did not force my opinion about this topic. I presented the information factually, and I kind of presented it fairly on both sides, and I did it in a neutral way to then leave it up to the reader. Mm-hmm. And I had one lady who purchased my book at a FanX Comic-Con conference, and I remember we talked in detail about this, and then she wrote a review for me, and she said that she was really excited to read the book, and she was a little concerned though about whether or not it was going to get too religious, or it was going to get too much into like spiritual topics and things like that. And I told her, it touches on that, but then it spins back and it goes to supernatural, and it presents both sides. And she, in a review, she said it did exactly that. It touched on those components, and then it shot right back to the supernatural side. And she felt that it was a really good mix.
That is amazing too, on how everything just comes together. And also, what other feedback have you got from the book as well too? Was it good? Was it neutral? Was it bad? Was it like praise, or are you getting some death threats over the issue?
So no death threats at all. So most of the feedback I've gotten, I'd say the majority of the feedback that I've received has been very positive. The book just reviews kind of in general. So on Amazon, out of 5 stars, I have 4.4. Nice. And that's with like 32 reviews. And then on Goodreads, my Goodreads is out of 5 stars, it's 3.84. And so it's not as high, but it's very different audiences on Goodreads and Amazon. And Goodreads is kind of the more, I'm very serious about reading. And the other thing, and I almost give this, it's kind of funny. I kind of giving this as advice to authors, especially like independent authors. Most of the negative reviews that I received on Goodreads were from people who won a free copy of my book.
Really?
So, I know. Can you imagine? I'm just like, really? And so, like, because if you go on there and you can put on there, say, hey, I'm giving away 100 digital copies of my book, and you spend, a couple $100, you sponsor it, you put it out there, and then you get like over 1,000, 1,500 people who register for your contest. And so if you click on it and you see, okay, people who register for your contest, how many other contests have they entered? And some of them had entered 16,000 contests for free books. And so, there's serial contest applicants, and so it's not like they're even interested in science fiction or this genre. They just want to try to win a free something. And literally, one of the reviews that I received was, I got about halfway through the book, and then really kind of decided that science fiction, it's really not my thing, so I stopped reading it. But I'm going to give it a 1 star anyway.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
It's almost like the question is, it's like, why bother even getting the book if you're not interested? And I have to say this is that, you get a free book, you should appreciate it, not put it down. I am just shocked. I'm not shocked. It's, people are funny. There's all kinds of people that make the world go around. And, so but I learned from that, I'm probably not going to do a free contest on Goodreads again. And I don't mean to bash Goodreads or anything like that, but I just think it's kind of the nature of people who want to try to get a free something. But so I look to Amazon and the reviews that I've gotten there, very positive. But again, I do have some, a couple of negative reviews on there where people said, I thought it was too descriptive, or I thought it was too slow moving at first. And well, that's fine. That's their opinion. And there's no way you're going to please everybody. And then on average, you just hope that most people do enjoy it. Not everyone has a same intellect like everything else. And this also popped in another question as we return to the cloning issue as well, too. I hope I'm not harping on it too much. But when it comes to intelligence, it's like, are they going to have the same IQ as their predecessor, or higher, lower, or is it going to be the same like everything else when it comes to IQs on clones?
Well, so there, that's a great question, because when you think about IQ, IQ is something which people are pretty much inherently born with. You have a aptitude, you have a kind of inherent IQ that you can take advantage of or not take advantage of. So if you were to clone somebody, leveraging their exact DNA, that person would have that same aptitude to have at least the same IQ. So if that makes sense. So it's not like, otherwise, could they engineer it and say, I'm going to give this person an even higher IQ? Well, yeah, but then they'd have to go in and they have to manipulate genetic code even further. And in my book, I didn't even try to explore that. But to answer your question, yeah, they would literally, they wouldn't say they have the exact same IQ, but they would have the ability to have that aptitude.
That is amazing too, and it's something to know as well too. And just give people second thoughts about cloning and everything else. I joke about cloning, but it would be too scary if somebody tried to clone me. It's just like, you do a good job or what, bad or whatever. It's like, who's going to cook for family? So, and then another thing too, like in this country, do you suppose our current president would allow cloning in this country? And what about other countries? Would they allow it? And what's their view?
Wow. So I think in the United States, I don't think that they would allow cloning right now. And again, I don't think that gets to Republican or Democrat. I just think that gets to kind of the tenor of citizens in the United States and our thought process looking towards this. When you go to other countries, I think yes. I think there are other countries where they would allow cloning to occur, and they would not legally restrict it.
That's something to keep in mind as well too. And of course, throughout your book, what do you consider your favorite chapter or the most challenging to write?
Oh, so favorite chapter for me is chapter 23. It's called Night of Nights. And this is the chapter. There's actually two things going on in the chapter. And so the first half of the chapter, it's basically describing this it's like this party event where these people are at this biotech incubator where they're working on cloning and all the science to make a business out of it. And the main character's wife, she's looking out over the city of downtown Los Angeles, and one of the characters, Dr. Schmidt, who is definitely an antagonist in the book, comes up behind her, and when she's looking out over the windows, she has an amulet that she wears that allows her to see visions. And when she looks out over Los Angeles, she sees this tornado that really isn't there, but she sees a tornado. There's like a skull in the tornado and winged creatures flying into the roof of a warehouse. And so then this doctor, Dr. Schmidt, comes up behind her, who is more, and this is kind of where it reveals that he's truly an evil person. And because he's talking to her about this vision that she's seeing, which he really shouldn't be able to see. And so then it cuts from that and then actually takes you inside the warehouse. And then it takes you back like 15 minutes earlier where that part of the chapter ended. And what's happening in the warehouse is clone children are being born.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was a super fun chapter to write.
And what about the most challenging in the book, in terms of chapters or whatever else?
I'd say probably chapter 36. And that is, I don't want to go into too many details about it, but the reason that was challenging, because the book, it starts off present day. It's like today or tomorrow. And then it basically does a flashback back 14 years earlier. And it takes you back up to the present. And then it goes through that chapter in detail. So the first part of that chapter, you get just kind of a hint of it. And then the second time through, I literally just yesterday I uploaded my audiobook to Audible for Creation Abomination, and that chapter is 45 minutes long.
Wow!
It's a massive chapter, and there's a lot of action. There's a lot of creepiness to it. There was a lot of things which I had to make accurate from saying, okay, if this happened. And then this happened so many seconds later, I had to make sure that scientifically was accurate, not giving away any information about what's happening in the chapter, but I had to, just in terms of the physics of things, to make sure that things were plausible.
And you talked about studying physics. Have you actually studied physics or read about it and incorporate into a lot of the chapters?
Oh yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, I took physics as a senior. I actually, as an extra credit project in my senior class in physics, this is in 1989. So yes, I'm dating myself. I'm almost 50. But for extra credit in that class, I built a helium neon laser.
Wow.
And it wasn't one where you just go buy a pen flashlight at 7-Eleven and then it works for $4. I actually went and bought the components from, the helium neon tube with partially mirrored ends and a capacitor and, piece this thing together. So that's why I'm saying I just love science. And so, but I took that in high school, and I also took physics in college. I was actually pre-med in college for the first year and a half, and then I changed and decided to go a different direction. But I took chemistry and I took physics in that as well. So yeah, that's just again, just an interest to me.
That was amazing too. And what are some of your favorite TV shows involving science fiction growing up? And what are some of your favorite writers that inspired you to write this book?
Wow. Okay. So science fiction TV shows growing up. Now this one's going to sound cliche, but you gotta know how old I was when Star Wars came out. I was born in 1971. So I'm like Star Wars true and true. Love Star Wars. I in my basement, I have a life-size Yoda that was a promo item from episode 3. So
Yoda you have. Yoda you have. And Yoda you shall. I had to say it. Sorry.
No, that's awesome. So definitely, I definitely like Star Wars, Star Trek. And the reason I like Star Trek, now when I talk about Star Trek, I love Star Trek Next Generation. I love the original Star Trek. Star Trek Deep Space Nine, didn't like. Star Trek Voyager, didn't like. Starship Enterprise, did like. But the Star Treks I really enjoyed because they were more accurate in terms of the science that they applied. And it wasn't just, and there were parts of Star Wars that kind of annoy me. Like where Princess Leia is in outer space and she doesn't die and her body doesn't boil and she goes back into the ship, type of stuff. But yeah, so there was an old TV show that was on when I was a teenager called V. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember V vaguely and saw a few episodes, but I'm glad you brought that up. Now I have to just jog through my memory. So I do remember that.
Yeah, that was the one where they had like these aliens came from outer space and they had like a skin over them that made them look human, but they were really like reptiles beneath it. And then there was like a split faction within them that was actually trying to not destroy the humans. They were trying to help them. And so like those. So love superhero from the Avengers to the DC universe. So I'm a big fan of those. Other science things that people probably could relate to. Love the movie Gattaca. I don't know if you remember that. It had Uma Thurman in it and Ethan Hawke.
What was the name of it again?
It's called Gattaca. Gattaca?
Gattaca. Okay. I've heard it. I might have seen it. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I think I know you're talking about. I'm getting some flashes. It's one of those movies where it's like you're play at night with your lovely wife, girlfriend, whatever it is, especially my wife. It's like, she enjoys it, but then it's like after, or it's like you fall asleep. It's like, what happened?
Yeah. I don't remember it anymore.
It's okay. But at least you get the idea. I do remember it, but then it's like those moments you kind of daze out. But, getting back to Star Trek, what are some of your favorite episodes and maybe some that actually influenced your project?
Ooh. So Star Trek, the one...
Star Trek, yeah. I just want to clarify, Star Trek, not Star Wars, Star Trek.
Star Trek. So, one of the episodes that is a favorite episode, it has nothing to do with my book, but it was the one where it's the original Star Trek with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy when they went down to a planet and they're literally in the tunnels. Like there's these tunnels where a creature's like eating through, and it looks like a giant calzone. It looks like a big piece of pizza with like sausages on it.
Oh, you're making me hungry.
I know. It's like pulsating on this thing. And it was like eating people. I just thought that was a crack up. It was super fun.
But that is not logical, sir. Not logical. Well, long live and prosper. Not logical. I could have showed you a Spock ears, but these are not allowing me.
No, that's true. Another episode which I think definitely could have played a contributing role. It kind of probably factor some stuff into that to my wanting to write this book is the episodes around Khan. So going back to Ricardo Montalban from Fantasy Island, who was on the original Star Trek, and he was on there. They were like the genetically edited master race from Earth, and they were like superhuman, and they were going to try to kill everybody in the Enterprise. So they banished them to City Alpha 6, if I remember that one correctly. I'm a total geek, but to City Alpha 6. And then they had that movie, The Wrath of Khan, which they brought back Ricardo Montalban. And then when they did the Star Trek reboot, they had it was the second one. They actually brought Khan back.
Nice.
That was awesome. That was a really good episode.
Ricardo Montalban is just a perfect character for Khan. And of course he says, what was that? Fantasy Island just made me think, welcome
Smiles,
to
everyone.
Fantasy
Smiles.
Island. Yeah. And drove a Cordoba. I remember that. Oh my goodness. And of course, we have Alan Thompson on, author of Creation Abomination. It's just been a fascinating book. You make it sound like just great to read. It's on Amazon right now. And, just a couple of things. We know you're busy and it looks like you're about to play chess with your friends here. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Biggest influence in my writing career?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd say there's two primary influencers. One is Michael Crichton. And so it's the realistic science fiction. I just love his descriptive detail, the action, the storyline. He's number one. The second one is Robert Jordan. And now this is a completely different genre. So Robert Jordan, he's fantasy. So I like fantasy as much, if not even better than I do science fiction. So Robert Jordan, he wrote a series, The Wheel of Time, and he passed away while he was on book 9 or 10. And then Brandon Sanderson came in and took over the writing to finish the series out. And I loved Robert Jordan because he was so descriptive in his writing. And you could, literally, as you're reading the book, you just picture everything in your head and you see what's happening. And it was a super strong influence because that is what I really I will try to accomplish in my writing is I want people to envision what it is I see in my mind when I'm writing the chapters. And one of the things that I did to kind of help add to that is, so I published my book in March of 2018. And then about 9 months ago, I commissioned the artist who did my cover art for Creation Abomination, and he did 10 paintings for me of different scenes from the book. And we basically argued over 6 months, coming up with, he read the book, and then I said, this is my vision, this is what I want. He's like, okay, that doesn't work creatively. So we argued back and forth, and we came up with this artwork, and he did a phenomenal job. And so now, I have my second edition paperback and hardcovers out now. And the artwork, those 10 paintings are included in the book, in the chapters. And so I love that because the readers, they read the chapter, they read my descriptions, and then they actually see a visual of how I envision it.
Nice. That is very nice. I like how you guys just weave your way into this book as well, too. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
To anybody at this point in terms of who want to write or...
Correct, yes.
So I would say don't fall into the trap that I did, which is start and stop. And then, but if you do fall into that trap, come back to it, no matter how long it takes, because you are going to be, you'll regret it. And so, it took me 15 years to have enough time so I could actually devote it to it, and I could actually create and write the book. And I'm actually on the hook now. I got to write 2 more because this is the first of the 3-book series. But I would I would tell them, don't give up. There are periods of time during that 6 years of writing it where I'd go 6 to 9 months and I wouldn't even touch it. Persevere, come back. You got to do it.
And of course, you talked about the next 2 books coming up as well, too. Maybe just give a very brief description, and when are they going to come out?
Sure. So the second book, I'm actively writing that. I should finish that this summer, and I anticipate that being available December to February timeframe.
Okay.
And so the second book is a continuation of the first book. So the first book, it's not things resolve in the book, so it's not a total cliffhanger, but it just leaves you hungry, it makes you wanting more. And so the second book creates the continuation of the story and will take you to a point where it will resolve itself again and then leave you wanting that third book. And the third book, that's probably not going to be until, it'll probably be the summer of 2021.
Wow, that is amazing. You got everybody hungry. All right, and that's how it's supposed to be. Hey, Alan, just wanted to say a big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. The author of Creation Abomination out on Amazon right now. And once again, tell everybody your upcoming projects, what's your website, how they contact you, and tell everybody once again how to purchase your book.
Absolutely. So you can purchase digital and paperback on Amazon.com. Just go there, search on Creation Abomination. I'll be the first one on the top. You can also purchase on BarnesandNoble.com. You can purchase paperback and hardcover. Again, just search Creation Abomination. I have a website. It's creationabomination.com. If you go to my website, I have links to reviews. I have links to purchase my book in the various forms. I also have all of my posters. So the artwork that I had created, I actually sell posters on my website. You can go there and purchase those as well. As far as projects, as I mentioned earlier in our interview, the last 4.5, 5 months, I've been working with a sound engineer to create an audiobook. The best thing about it is I did not read it. I actually hired because it drives me nuts. I'm not. I can speak and people can understand me, but I can't convey emotion and I can't do things that people who are trained in that. They're just talented, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I did is I hired 2 theater students, a man and a woman, and so they read the book. And nice. They do the male and the female speaking parts, and it's funny, it's humorous, it's sad, they elicit emotion. And so I literally just uploaded that to Audible. It will be available on audible.com, amazon.com, and iTunes. And it should actually be available in 7 days.
That is amazing. That is amazing. We're looking forward to that. And Alan, just want to say a big thank you for appearing on the program. I'd like to have you on again soon, and looking forward to having you back. And please do everybody a favor, keep us up to date.
Will do. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for listening to The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Listen online at themikewagnershow.com and on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And watch the interview on YouTube. Also, become a sponsor of the program and or donate today at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of The Mike Wagner Show.